Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Risk It podcast presented by VFIS Client Risk Solutions. This program focuses on the exposures our clients frequently encounter and discusses some potential solutions to help reduce these exposures. I'm your host, Chris Rodgers with VFIS Client Risk Solutions, and today we're talking about the HAAS alerting system used in emergency service fleets. Joining me on the program today is Darrell Fisher from New Holland EMS in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And Darrell is joining us today to discuss how his department implemented the HAAS system and how they integrated it into their fleet. Darrell, I want to thank you for joining me today, and it's a pleasure to have you on the program.
Absolutely, Chris. I appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to speak about HAAS.
Absolutely, and thank you again for joining us. So what is the HAAS Alert system, and what is digital alerting?
So the HAAS alerting system literally puts out a beacon from our emergency vehicles to let those around us know that there's either a scene, emergency scene ahead, or an emergency vehicle approaching them. So really just this dome that follows our ambulance. As the time we turn the lights on, it sends out a signal. So if you have a GPS unit or a compatible Waze app, it'll alert your device as you're driving down the road.
So it's not something that's just emergency services communicating with one another. This can be pushed out to the public to let them know that there are emergency vehicles.
Yeah, correct. There's literally two sides. One of them is emergency vehicle talking to other emergency vehicles to let you know you're approaching the intersection at the same time. The second part of that is really allowing the public to know they're either approaching or having an emergency vehicle coming up near them.
So how does the safety cloud alerting work?
So really, it's out of sight, out of mind as an emergency responder. The second you turn on your emergency lights, very quickly it'll put out a beacon around your emergency vehicle that approaching vehicles, anybody that has a Waze app or an Apple GPS system will alert that device. So we live in a day that there's a lot of distracted drivers. So the science behind it is alerting those devices that folks are monitoring either in their vehicles or on their devices.
So does New Holland EMS have responder collision prevention?
Currently we do not have the responder to responder. We only carry the side that alerts the public and the vehicles around us.
Is that something that you're looking forward to do, or is it? I mean, it's more often we see when there's collisions, it's the public interacting with an emergency vehicle. It's less often that we see an emergency vehicle striking an emergency vehicle. Granted, that's not to say it doesn't happen, but is that the reason that the push was to alert the public because we're more likely to possibly have a collision with them versus another emergency response vehicle?
I think so. I believe our goal, I remember initially talking about a 5-year trial to see what we think of the program, the equipment, and we can add on that responder very easily after we have the equipment installed. So I know this year in 2025, it was a discussion again, and we're hoping by the end of 26 to have that in our trucks as well.
So how has this system increased safety for your organization? What are some of the benefits to digital alerting?
So we have some major highways in our area, even Route 222, even small little 2-lane Route 23 gets a lot of traffic. And the data that we're getting back, we're able to track, we hit about 15 to 1,800 phones a month. So that's telling me those are 1,800 drivers that are being alerted that we're parked along the side of the road to an incident or an emergency scene. And there's some peace of mind knowing that those drivers know we're around there before they see us or before they see our lights. They come around a corner and they have a little bit of awareness that we're there stopped on the side of the road and that they can slow down first and move over and to help keep our providers safe.
Megan Carr is joining us in the room, and I believe she had a point she wanted to bring up. So Megan, what do you got there?
Hey, Darrell. I appreciate you coming in today and taking the time to talk to us. You mentioned some distracted driving a few questions ago, and I think that really couldn't be more true, especially with cell phones being such a big part of everybody's lives this day and age. When I'm passing an emergency scene, let's say there's an ambulance parked alongside the road, this digital alerting through HAAS, that comes up as almost like what would appear like a missed call notification or like a text message notification, right? It really is truly like a hands-free, a part of that distracted driving notification technique, right?
Yeah, I know personally on the Waze app, you'll get a ding if you have your audio set up that there's debris on the roadway. Traveling this weekend, I had that exact scenario. No different. If you're approaching maybe a blind corner and there's an emergency vehicle with this software, you would get a ding saying there's stopped emergency vehicles ahead. But gives you that knowledge that they're in front of you. You can slow down, maybe get in the left lane if you're in a 4-lane highway, just to give you that added time to react. So you're not blindly coming around a corner, maybe on a dark, rainy night, and gives everybody more time to react.
And this also gives the same notification when you have one or more, I guess, vehicles approaching from behind you, right? So if you're on a multi-lane highway, let's say 222, and there's an accident up ahead, it'll tell you that there's vehicles coming from behind.
Yes, you will get an alert, emergency vehicle approaching nearby. So there again, in 2025, our vehicles are made to be quiet, and we have music on. We're not in the mindset of even looking for an emergency ahead. And then getting that notification maybe allows you to glance in the mirror and see that vehicle coming well before a siren might hit your ears.
So you mentioned earlier in your comments that this is something that was kind of out of sight, out of mind. So with that being said, was this something that in the past that had to be purchased and implemented into a vehicle, and now going forward is kind of a safety system that is, if I go out and my department buys a 2026, whatever it may be, that this is probably going to be already installed on there? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I know there is a list of manufacturers that are looking at that. Certainly in the fire industries, I know there's 4 or 5 manufacturers. Your fire truck will come with, I believe, a few years purchased. I know ambulance companies are a little behind, but they're talking about that. We had to buy the little device, very easy to install, and I believe we were able to get all of our trucks installed in just a few days. So you can add it to any emergency vehicle, but I do know manufacturers are looking at that, and I believe as time proves, more and more manufacturers are getting these in the vehicles for us.
I'm sure they see that there's a safety component behind that. So could you talk about some real life examples, some examples from crews that might have had close calls where this system helped them out?
Yeah, absolutely. Literally, traffic incidents are one of the leading causes of injury to the responder, and that's tow truck driver, police, fire, EMS. And so, we live in a day and age we can see our pizza arrive on our app. I believe it's time for the emergency services to catch up with some of that. Some of the newest technologies. So we have incidents where, fire trucks on our incident have been struck, where we hear screeching of tires and they come sliding up behind our ambulance. And so we are looking at every chance we can get to keep our providers safe. And the HAAS system itself is rather inexpensive compared to some of the other safety things we spend money on with lights and sirens and reflectivity. And we feel we can get much added benefit to our providers,
especially with the amount of providers that are being struck on the roadway to give an alert. That seems like a much, if we're talking cost, buying the HAAS system is much cheaper than buying a new aerial or buying a new engine that might get struck because we might have an underinsured or an uninsured motorist that took that thing out.
I'm not even speaking on the injury itself to the provider. Exactly. I know overnight, there was a state trooper struck along the side of the road, his vehicle. So it happens. It's one of the most dangerous things we do. And every ambulance call, we're out on the roadway somewhere, backing into a driveway, parked alongside the road. We try to wear reflectivity. We take training to be out there. This is just an added step for literally dollars a day. We can add this to a vehicle. And we feel we're seeing the data that's making us more safe.
That's great to hear. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing a lot of information about this system. I think it's a system that some of us know the name of. Hand up, that's me. We know the name of and don't really know a lot about this system. So thank you for coming in and explaining it to me and our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
And I want to thank you for listening to the program and for your interest in VFIS safety resources. I want to thank Darrell once again for his time and information. Please consider subscribing to our program to stay up to date on new content releases. Also, if you like what you've heard, please consider leaving a review below. For more information about the many resources available from VFIS, please visit VFIS.com. And to submit ideas for future discussions, please reach out by email at VFISriskcontrol@VFIS.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. The views, information, or opinions expressed during this program are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Gladfelter Insurance Group, VFIS, and its employees.